Hello, and welcome to the Financial Literacy Institute's Business Spotlight series. Today, we are joined by Matt Sutton, the owner of the Melted Morsl. We're going to talk about how they got started, the challenges they faced, lessons that they've learned, and what advice they have for others who may want to start or grow a business. So, welcome, Matt. Please go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business.
Sure. And thank you, Todd, so much for having me on here. My name is Matt. I am the owner of Melted Morsl. We sell cookies in Orlando, specifically Winter Garden, Florida. And we started this business with my 8-year-old daughter.
Excellent. And where did you grow up, Matt?
Originally from New Jersey, we moved down to Florida when I was about 6 or 7 years old, and I kind of grew up on the Clearwater, Tampa side of Florida.
Okay. And what was your first job?
Believe it or not, my first job was actually a lifeguard. So I was a swimmer growing up competitively all through childhood, and my first job was working as a lifeguard at one of the pools that I practiced at.
Huh, interesting. I did not know that. Did you always know you wanted to own a business or work in your profession?
Um, you know, no, if I'm being fully honest, I never thought that we would start our own business or open up a cookie business at that. It's something that kind of just happened over time.
Okay. Were there any people in your life who influenced your career path?
Um, a lot of people influenced my career path, but I think the two biggest influences were my mom and dad. They really helped shape my work ethic and kind of where I wanted my careers to go.
Okay. And what experience helped prepare you for what you do today?
So I think I've really taken experience from all the different jobs that I'd worked. Every place that I've been, I've taken something or learned something from it that I've always been able to apply to the next job. So it's no different with this. Working in restaurants, I learned how to deal with people, and working as a lifeguard, I learned how to identify issues and things like that. So I feel like every job is contributing to this.
Okay. Did you feel like you were entrepreneurial as a child or a young adult?
Yes and no. I mean, every kid strives to make money, right? So I would always try to find ways to make money, whether it's selling lemonade at a stand or anything like that. So there definitely a little bit of traits there.
Okay, very good. And what did you learn from your early jobs?
I learned how to deal with people. That's the big bulk of what I was doing. As a server, as a bartender, as a lifeguard, you interact with people constantly, and I think that's what really taught me the big skills.
Okay, good. Was money ever a source of stress growing up, and how did that shape the way you manage finances today?
I think money is always a source of stress, right? It doesn't really matter what level of income you have. Even people that have a lot of money and are very well off are still stressed about money because the lifestyle changes the more money that you make. So I don't think we were ever stressed about money, but we were always trying to provide the life that we wanted as a kid, to take the family vacations that we wanted to. So I wouldn't say we were stressed about money, but it was something that was always on our mind, and that's really shaped the way that we look at finances now, because we're trying to do the same thing with our daughter. We want to make sure that she's got a memorable childhood. We do all the family vacations. She's in the sports she wants to be in, and that stuff takes money. So I wouldn't say we're stressed about money, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we have enough that we can live the life we want to.
Sure, sure. Um, how did you come up with the idea for the business?
It's a funny story, actually. So I've been baking since I was a kid. I started baking with my mom, and I've been baking every holiday, every family get together, every work function. I would always bring cookies. And one day my daughter was looking at us and just like, we should really open up our own cookie shop. We've had a lot of support from our family and friends, and it kind of just turned into one of our passions, turned into one of our businesses.
Okay. Was was it like a problem you were trying to solve when you came up with it, or how did you realize that the idea could become a real business?
So, everyone, I've never seen anyone upset while they're eating a cookie. So I think the problem we're really trying to solve is just making people happy. Especially in today's age, there's so much negativity and craziness going on in the world. And if you can put a smile on someone's face, then I feel like I've accomplished a great task for the day. So we're just trying to fill that void in between the giant cookies and the little cookies so that you could have a little piece of happiness every day.
And cookies always make the day better.
Yeah, I've never been upset eating a cookie.
Did you do any like market research before you got started? And did you have any doubt that your idea might work in the beginning?
Well, I feel like I definitely have doubt in there, but my belief that we'd be successful outweighed my doubt. It's never bad to have doubt because it helps make sure that you don't overlook all the little details. The market research we did, we were really looking at what the main competitors would be. Your big cookie brands, your Gideon's Bakehouse here in Orlando, your Crumbles, things like that. So we really try to focus on what they're doing and almost do the exact opposite. In our opinion, cookies today, everybody is trying to go bigger and better. Giant cookies, 400 grams of sugar cookies, cookies the size of a car tire. And that's not really where we are. When we sat down, we're like, what do we want in a cookie? And for us, it was I want a cookie that's delicious, it fills me up to nostalgia, and it's just like I was at when I was a kid. So, yeah, that's kinda really the market we went after.
Okay. Okay, that sounds like a good plan. Um, what finally made you decide to move forward? And when you started, were you still working like a full-time job or another job?
Yeah, so I was definitely working a full-time job, taking the leap of faith to start this cookie business was exactly that. It was a leap of faith. And, our day job gave us a lot of security to be able to start this, which was nice. But what really convinced us to start was my daughter. We would play, restaurant and make believe all the time with her. And every now and again, she'd open up her own pretend restaurant. And, one day she would just shop and then, hey, we should really open our own cookie shop. And she just kept doing it, kept doing it, kept doing it. And then I think about the fifth or sixth time she said, we could open a cookie shop. My wife and I sat down and said, can we actually make this work? So that's kind of how everything went about, and we kind of just set it fully trigger on it.
That I love that story because little background, I've known you and your family obviously for many years, and I can remember coming over to your house years ago, and she had the little plastic, toy stove and kitchen set, and she was always playing with it. So, did you like develop a formal business plan? And what were your biggest fears when you started?
So we developed a business plan, but I wouldn't call it a formal business plan. We weren't going after any type of loans or lending or things like that. So to have a full formal business plan, we didn't go all the way that depth. Well, we did put together a business plan of what our plans were, what we were trying to accomplish, and how we were going to accomplish that, just for our own peace of mind.
Okay. Did you use any personal savings or other sources of funding to get started? And what would you say was your first major expense? And then with that, looking back, do you think you were financially prepared when you started?
Sure. Absolutely not. We are not financially prepared. We definitely took this as a leap of faith and something that we truly believe we can be financially successful in. So it was something that we're definitely working towards. When we started, we didn't direct or any lending. We weren't sure of any loan programs and small business accounts that would allow us to have the money we needed. So we did do an owner contribution into our own business so that we would have the capital to get started. I think the biggest expense, was just the packaging. So we did a lot of testing on packaging, different bags, different bounties, different sizes, different colors, try and really see what was the vision and the idea of what we wanted. So that was probably our biggest experiment.
Okay, so marketing was a big expense to start.
Yeah.
Um, what was the hardest part about getting started though? And what was there like one mistake that taught you a major lesson?
So the hardest part was figuring out how to actually sell the cookies, or believe it or not. With the different licensing and regulations, everything we through is highly regulated. So figuring out what we need to do in order to legally sell these and become an actual business was probably the hardest part. As far as a hard lesson that we learned, we luckily haven't made any mistakes big enough where we've learned a hard lesson. But I think just doing the research on what the labeling requirements, the nutritional requirements were with these, I think that's what the rest of we learned the most from.
So kind of learning the ropes of regulations and things like that was a big challenge in the beginning.
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Did you ever think about quitting?
No, that's when we started out, quitting wasn't really in our mindset. Like I said, we've been making cookies for years doing this. So turning into a business was just a logical step at this point. And I'm still going to be baking cookies for holidays, for families, for birthdays. So it doesn't make sense to quit at this point.
Right.
We're going to push it all the way through.
Right. Going back to the finances, what would you say was your biggest financial challenge early on? And what surprised you the most about like learning how to run a business?
So I think the biggest thing that learning about running a business and things that have surprised me are the tax, right? Because it's simple in concept where I'm going to start a business, I'm going to make so much money, and I'm going to keep the money, and it's really not that simple. You definitely have to put taxes aside. And with my day job and with my wife's day job, they retain your taxes from the employer, so it's not something you have to actively think about. So going into my own business and writing checks for taxes and things like that, we have to make sure that we set the money aside from every sale, from everything we do quarterly, just to make sure that we have enough money for taxes at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think you bring up a very good point because a lot of people might think that they want to start a business, but obviously the tax portion of it is something to consider because when you do work for an employer, you have a W-2 at the end of the year for your taxes, they take it out. But when you're an entrepreneur and you run your own company, you have to do all of that, for yourself.
Mm.
Um, did you lose any money with early decisions that you made? And would you do anything differently as far as the startup process?
Yeah, of course we lost money in the beginning. That's kind of par for the course, especially with baked goods. And the reason I say that is when we started out, we wanted to go after a couple farmers markets, really get our names out there, do pop-up events and things like that. And with our cookies, because we don't put any preservatives in them, they don't have a very long shelf life. So we would bake, 200 cookies to go to an event and we'd sell 100 or 150. Well, that remaining is all loss, right? Because I can't resell them. There's nothing I can do with them. So the packaging, the ingredients, the time, everything from that aspect is considered a loss. So I would consider that losing money. Things that I would change is trying to figure out the exact number I need, right? If I had a crystal ball, that would be perfect. But I don't think I would change anything from the beginning because it's hard lessons we have to learn, trying to figure out what the right amount of cookies to bake is. And even now, I think we'd still overshoot it or undershoot it. You never really know what the foot traffic's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, inventory management, it can always be a challenge. Um, when did you realize that the business was starting to work, and what do you think has helped grow the business?
I think we really started to realize how much this is going to work right from the beginning. We had a lot of support from friends, from family, from our community going into this. A little bit of a backstory is when I was in real estate, I used to hand out cookies to clients, to people. That's how I met people. I would literally go around dressed in a Cookie Monster onesie and hand out cookies to introduce myself to people in the neighborhood and the community. And so people have been aware of my cookies for a long time. So making this transition into selling the cookies full time, we've actually got a lot of support from people who are already familiar with the product.
Okay. That's good, and it actually kinda answered my next 2 questions, which was, how did you find your first customers or clients, and what role has, customer service played in your success?
So we found our clients really just from friends and family were the immediate customers, and then going out into the community, handing out free samples, and just getting to know people. Once they taste the cookies, they always want more. So having them place orders and trying to get them hooked that way has been really successful. But to answer your other question about customer service, to me, customer service is above all else, right? Because without customers, we don't have a business, and that's how most businesses operate. You're dependent upon your customers. So trying to put customer service first, making sure that everybody's happy, good, bad, or indifferent is our top priority.
The customer is always right. It doesn't matter if they're wrong, they're still right. So, and
They're
that
always
doesn't matter what business you're in.
right.
um, what marketing strategy do you feel worked best for you, and did referrals help your growth?
So our marketing strategy is pretty simple. We just want to be seen, right? If we can get our product in people's hands, chances are they're going to come back and get more. So our marketing is we go out and meet people, whether that's at events, we do pop ups, or I'm just out there dressed like a goofball handing out free samples to get people to know us. So that's been really helpful. And as far as referrals go, they've been amazing because people try the cookies, they tell their friends, they tell their family, and the next thing you know, people are coming in or trying to find out where they can get some. So referrals are a real integral part of our success too.
Referrals are a lifeline for any business. I truly believe that. All right, so the next few questions, we're going to try to tie in with the institute and one of our mandates, which is teaching financial literacy. Um, so the first question would be, what is the most important financial lesson you feel you've learned as a business owner or professional?
So I think the biggest lesson we've learned is has to go back to taxes. Making sure that everything is in line for your taxes because at the end of the year, if you're paying penalties or you're not having your taxes set aside correctly and you're paying more tax than you anticipated, it can really affect your profit and your bottom line.
Okay. And how do you manage your cash flow? Like when you have to purchase things versus when you have the revenue from sales.
So all of our cash flow right now is going back into the business. So it's just trying to be reinvested as much as we can so that we can really continue to grow and get new equipment and things like that. So we have a separate business account set up. We have separate business cards so that we can dedicate everything specifically to the business and make sure that we're keeping track of everything. So as sales come in, we take the money in the business account and then we're going out and either buying new packaging, buying new equipment, something that make us more efficient and continue growing the brand.
Okay. Um, what financial mistake should new business owners avoid?
Thinking that you're going to make a profit on day one, I think is the biggest mistake. We knew going into this that we were going to be successful, but we were also very realistic with our expectations. So assuming that we're going to make $1 million in the first week, could really set us off on the wrong foot. So trying to make sure that we understood that so that we can weather the storm and prepare in the beginning, I think is something that everyone needs to account for.
You bring up a great point, and it is important for any new business. I think the average is like the first 2 to 3 years. You don't anticipate making a profit, and some people think that they're going to get into a new business and just right out of the gate, have tons and tons of profits and money. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Um, what do you wish you had known about money before you started?
For us specifically, I think I would have liked to known the different loan types that were available to small businesses. Obviously, I've heard of an SBA loan and things like that, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to take care of it or apply for it, and I didn't know if there were any other options. Being with baked goods, we don't have the high capital products like a car or a vehicle that some other businesses do, or the big machines. We have mixers and things like that, which are definitely expensive, but not on the level of some of the other businesses. So trying to find something that's like a small business is was definitely challenging. And I think if we could have figured that out and not had to take an owner contribution right in the beginning, I think that would have set us up even better.
Okay. Um, Do you use a like a CPA or a bookkeeper or financial advisor in any way?
Can I plead the fifth on your podcast? Is that Um, I know you're gonna yell at me for this. Right now, we do not use a CPA. I'm doing everything myself on, Excel and things like that. So we're not using specialized program. It's very manual at this point. And for us, it was more of a cost thing. We wanted to make sure that we got all of our ducks in a row before spending money on services like that. It is definitely something we're going to do, and I know I'm going to need to do it. It'll make my life a lot easier, but right now, it's all on my shoulders.
Okay, okay. I don't think that it's required that you have a CPA or bookkeeper right out of the gate, especially when your business partner and significant other has a background in that field. So
Yeah.
you're very blessed to have the situation that you have. Um, you kind of touched on this earlier, but do you separate your personal finances from your business finances? Can we go back to that and talk a little bit more?
Absolutely. So we do. We separate our personal finances from our business finances. For us, we want to make sure that everything's clean, easy to document, and we know exactly how the business is performing. If we started mixing all of our personal money with the sales, it's really hard to keep track and keep things clean. So we have separate business accounts, we have separate business credit cards. So everything for the business is run through that. And then once we make sales and have profit, we reinvest that directly into the business.
Okay, good. Um, how about what advice would you give someone about debt?
Don't be scared of it. There's a lot of negativity surrounding the word debt and what it carries. But in my opinion, there's good debt and there's bad debt. If I go spend $2,000 on a pair of shoes just so that I could look really cool, I think that's what I would consider bad debt. There's no benefit to it. But for us, we don't necessarily have the cash to buy a really expensive mixer or a really expensive oven. So taking on debt and then using our profits to then pay off that debt, I think goes a long way. And it allows us to grow and continue to grow without being scared of anything like that. And not to mention, if you put it on your credit card and you continuously pay your credit down, you're going to get a higher credit score. It's going to give you bigger lines of credit and allow you to purchase more in the future. So I've never been scared of debt.
Okay, okay. I agree with that answer completely. Um, all right, last one in this category.
Sure.
What is the best investment you have made in your business so far?
I think just investing in ourselves, as corny as that sounds, but having the belief that we're going to be able to do this and giving ourselves the opportunity to really show that we can do this has been our best investment. We had a lot of the mixers, we have the oven, we have the cookie sheets, we have all the equipment because I've been baking for everything since I was a kid. So I think turning around and just having the belief that we could do this and going for it was probably the best investment we've made.
Okay. All right, switching gears just a little bit. How has your leadership style changed over time, do you feel?
It's definitely changed. The more that I learn, the more that I grow, the more opportunities that I have to lead, it shapes who I am as a leader. And I think, especially working with my wife and my daughter, my leadership skills have to be very on point. So I joke about that, but it's also true because for our daughter, she's just turned 8 years old. We're trying to teach her the business. We're trying to teach her how to be an entrepreneur and all these other things. And we're also trying to make it fun. So we come from a side of learning and training. So that's my leadership style is we're always going to make mistakes, right? The other day she knocked an entire thing of flour over, which is fine. That happens, right? But you also have to teach her that, okay, well, that's profit. That's down the drain. That's ingredients. It's down the
That's
drain. That's purchase area we
inventory.
can't sell. That's inventory. So, all of our actions have consequences, but my leadership style is to try to teach her what happened, how we can prevent it, and what we can do moving forward, and things like that. So I think I try to make it more fun and a learning aspect at this point in our careers.
Excellent, excellent. I think that's a great answer. Um, how do you build trust with customers, clients, or even maybe future employees?
Honestly, being genuine, I think goes a long way with building trust. And for us, I'll give you a specific example is when we hand out cookies in the community. I don't have another angle. There's no ulterior motive. There's just me trying to make people smile. So it's like, here's a cookie. I want you to have a great day. If you like it, come back. If you don't, have a nice day. So being genuine and not trying to be nice for the purpose of getting a sale, I think goes a long way because once people realize that you're actually just doing what you're saying you're doing, they tend to lower their guard and trust you a little bit more.
That's true. That's true. And I don't think there's enough of that in the world today, quite frankly. Um, how do you handle conflict or difficult decisions?
So with conflict, my my biggest fear is someone just eating a cookie and spitting it in my face, telling me it's the worst thing in the world. And that's as irrational as that is. It hasn't happened yet, but that is always my biggest fear in the back of my mind. So I'm always prepared for conflict. And what I mean by that is I try to diffuse the situation at all times. It doesn't matter if I'm right, if I'm wrong. I try to diffuse the situation because you're not going to get anywhere by yelling with someone. You're not going to change their minds. You're not going to win an argument by having an argument. So I try to take a step back, let things kind of fizzle out and really try to diffuse the situation however I can, whether that's, giving them something extra, whether that's listening to their complaints, whether it's making a change, something that's bothering them. I always try to find a way that we can resolve any issues and any conflicts without more conflict coming forward.
Okay. Okay. What do you think makes someone a good leader?
The ability to admit when they're wrong, I think makes a good leader. Not everything I do is going to be a winner. Not every decision I make is going to be the right decision. But being able to admit that I made the wrong decision, figure out what the right decision is, and move forward from there, I think is a really good, uh, you know, role for a leader to have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, your employees are your family, so the question is, what have your employees or team members taught you?
They've taught me a lot about resilience, because things aren't always going to go wrong. Like I said, we went to a couple pop-up markets where we thought we were going to sell 200 cookies and we didn't hit that mark. So being resilient and not being down on myself, I think is something that I really learned from them because if I start to get down on myself, they always try to cheer me up and they're always there with a positive attitude. So having that resiliency and having my family support around us and seeing that they're happy is really taught me a lot.
Okay, good. Um, all right, let's talk a little bit about technology. How do you feel technology has changed your business? And what tools or systems have helped you operate better?
Technology plays a huge part in our business. We do the designs, we do the marketing, we do everything creative on the computer when we're designing stuff. So that plays a huge role in how we get our product out there, how we get our name out there. And then we also use technology because our ordering system, our website is the main bread and butter of how you can order our cookies. So without technology, I think we would just be floating in the water.
Okay. How do you stay competitive?
So for us, we're actually trying to go the opposite direction of all of our competition. A lot of the cookies today are just overwhelmingly big. You can't eat one in one sitting by yourself. And if you do, you feel terrible for the next 4 or 5 hours. And I think
So true.
so. I think we're going the opposite direction where we're trying to create a cookie when you want a cookie. It's not a gigantic dessert that you can feed a family from. And so I think for us, I'm not really concerned about the competition because we're going the opposite direction. And what they sell and what we sell don't really have any interaction with each other. So whatever they're doing and we're doing, we have two completely different groups.
Okay. I personally I completely agree with that because the local grocery here that I go to on a regular basis, they have these cookies that are just you go into the bakery and it's like it almost looks like a small cake or a pie, and you think, how in the world can you eat all of that at one sitting? And I've had your cookies and they're the perfect size. They really are. They're not too small, they're not too big. They're just right where they need to be. Um, all right, here's another one for you. How do you adapt when customer expectations change? And what trends are you watching in your industry?
So when customers they change and things change, we try to just roll with the punches. We're never going to hit anything spot on. So if their expectations change and they thought they were going to get something bigger, what can we do to make it right? If their expectations change and they thought that they were going to get something different, okay, well, what can we do to make this right? So it's more of a case by case basis for us because we're not pre-made. We're doing everything, when you order it online or if we're at a pop-up market, we have our inventory that's in front of us. So we try to adapt the best that we can and just try to fill their needs wherever it comes into. And if we're able to do that, we do. As
Okay.
far as trends go, for us, cookies are cookies. So the only trends that we really followed are like the social media trends and trying to stay on top of that so that we can be top of mind and really get our name out there.
Do you think like I know because I've ordered from you and I've been on your site, so you have a variety of flavors. Do you think over time you'll see a trend where maybe a certain flavor sells more or sells less, and that might have an impact or direction on what you choose to offer to customers?
It'll definitely have an impact on it. If people are ordering one specific flavor, hands down over the others, it's something that we can look into keeping it as a permanent mix. Right now, we rotate the flavors through just so that we can be laser focused on our quality on those three flavors for the week and just try to give the best, highest quality product to the customers.
Okay. All right, so let's look forward to the future a little bit. What are your goals for the next few years?
So our goals are just to continue to grow. We would love to be able to get a storefront and start wholesale. There's an income threshold when it comes to that, as far as licensing and things like that go. So for us right now, it doesn't make sense to obtain the licensing to wholesale or anything like that because we're such a smaller operation. So I think in the next 5 years, if we're able to reach that point of profit and that point of income to where we need to get new licensing, would be that's our main goal.
Okay. Um, what are you the most excited about right now?
Honestly, I'm just really excited about spending time with my daughter. We bake the cookies together, we package them together, and when we're out at events and we're spending time together, meeting the people, watching her interact, and watching her actually work in the business, I think has just been so exciting and such a blessing.
What do you think are going to be the biggest challenges that you expect in the future?
Just the biggest challenges is always staying relevant. You've got new companies coming in, new flavors coming in. Everyone's always trying to break into the market. And with food and beverage, you don't want to become stale. Yeah, no pun intended. You don't want to be there and have people be like, this is the same thing as it was all the time. So trying to innovate and come up with new flavors and just stay relevant, I think is going to be the biggest challenge.
Okay. What legacy do you want your business or career to leave?
We strive here to make people happy. At the end of the day, we're selling little puffs of happiness. So I think the legacy that we want to leave is just how many people did we affect? How many people did we bring nostalgia to, where they're thinking back to their grandma's kitchen when they were a kid having cookies.
Mm.
So we just want to make people happy, put a smile on their face, because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny you mentioned grandma because that is one memory I have with my own grandmother is she was always baking something and it was always sweet and delicious and you look forward to going to grandma's house. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, nearing the end here, we're going to have some signature questions that we're going to be asking in each episode. And the first one is, what advice would you give your younger self?
Start sooner, I think, is the best advice that I could give my younger self. All my coworkers, friends, and family, they always pushed us to start a cookie business because they would try them at every holiday event. They tell us how good they are. So I think if I had to go back, I would just tell myself to start sooner because who know where it would be by now.
Oh, that is a great answer, Matt. And it is so true. If anybody, if any young adult is thinking about it, do it. That would be my advice. Don't wait. Okay. What is one lesson every entrepreneur or business professional eventually learns?
The customer's always right. And we touched on this just a little bit ago, but as cliche as that is, the customer is always right because without customers, we don't have a business. So we have
Absolutely.
to learn that whether they're happy or upset, they're sad. We need to figure out a way to keep them coming back and to keep them happy. And for us being in the food and beverage, it's really important that we keep our customers top of mind.
I totally agree with that. Everybody has bad days or even bad weeks, but the customer is always right. You have to be able to bring them back to you. Um, what is one financial lesson everyone should know?
I think, that again, I'm gonna keep going back to taxes, but for us, that's the biggest thing. We want to make sure that our taxes in order being a small business is it's things you have to file and things that you need to keep track of for the end of the year. And I think that's the biggest lesson most small businesses need to learn how to do.
Okay. How do you personally define success?
I define success by being able to look myself in the mirror in the morning. Like I said, we're trying to make people laugh here. We're trying to make people smile and have a little bit of happiness when everything else is kind of crumbling around us right now. So putting my best foot forward, being genuine and genuinely trying to help people, as long as I'm able to look myself in the mirror in the morning and put a smile on my own face, I think I'm being successful.
Okay. If you lost everything tomorrow except your knowledge, reputation, and your work ethic, what would you do first?
I'd eat a cookie and clear my head. I cookies make me happy, and having one of those and just kind of taking the edge off for the day, if you will. I think I could focus from there on out.
Okay. All right, last one. What advice would you give someone who wants to start a business but is afraid to take that first step?
Just I would tell them to write out what the alternatives are on paper and write it down on paper because saying it is one thing, thinking in your mind is one thing, but physically seeing it on paper kind of puts it in a different perspective. And I would personally write down everything that can go wrong if you're staying where you are and everything that could possibly go wrong if you start the business and compare the two because the results might surprise you.
I love that answer. I've always been a big fan and proponent of a list of pros and cons. Okay, so we're nearing the end of our time together. We've got some fun rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee,
Morning person or night person?
morning person.
Favorite business book or podcast?
Anything from Alex Hormozzi.
Best purchase under $100.
Best purchase under $100? Oh, that's you got me there. Probably my water bottle because I drink a ton of water throughout the day.
Okay. One app or tool you use every week.
I use Canva every single week, so which is a design app.
Okay. One habit that helps you stay productive
Drinking coffee
and eating cookies.
and eating cookies. Yes, the sugar and the caffeine keep me productive.
Okay. One word that describes your business journey.
Flourishing.
One person who inspired you.
My dad.
Biggest lesson from failure.
Tomorrow's always coming.
The sun always comes up tomorrow. Best piece of advice you ever received.
After yes comes no.
I like that one. Very good. Okay, so how can people learn more about your business and how can people support you?
Sure. Supporting is the easiest. Buy cookies. And tell your friends to buy cookies. That's the easiest way to support us. But in all seriousness, going on to our Instagram and following us and telling your friends about it, going online at our website. So on Instagram, we are Melted Morsel Cookies, and online we are meltedmorsel.com. So I'll make sure to have those links for you to put in there, but that's the easiest way to support.
Okay. Yeah, and we have that up on the screen now. So, um, is there anything we did not ask that you would like people to know?
You did a great job answering or asking a lot of the questions, and I think if there's one thing that I just want other people to know about us, it's just that we're genuine people. We try to be as transparent as you can, and really just make people smile. We're not working a separate angle or doing anything crazy. So, when we say something, we're going to do it, and we're just trying to make people happy.
Okay, very good. And I just want to take this moment. I brought a couple props with us. This is actually their cookie, the cookie size, and you can see it's perfectly packaged. It's sealed. Um, this is their box that they come in. Now, this is actually a dozen. They have a half dozen, which is about half this size. And they do have the ingredients on the back of the box. And so we have the website up on the screen for you, and I definitely would encourage you to try them out. They are delicious. I shouldn't eat as many as I do, but they are very good. So
I
thank
wouldn't
you.
tell anybody how many you've ordered.
Well, thank you for sharing your story with us today. Every successful business has a journey, and every journey contains lessons that can help someone else. So we appreciate your time and your honesty, your willingness to support the mission of the Financial Literacy Institute. If today's conversation inspired you, visit us at tflischolarships.com to learn more about our free financial literacy classes and scholarship opportunities. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more content designed to help you build a stronger financial future. Thank you again.
Thanks, Doug.